Well, good morning once again, world. Paul Spitzbergen here. It is about two-thirds of the way through the month of May, and it is muggy, but it's not real hot out, so I'm very thankful for that. And it's been a while since I've posted one of these, and I just wanted to share something that the Lord's kind of been taking some time to knock into my head here a little bit through several different resources. And actually took notes on this one, so it's not just flying off the top of my head this time. But real quick, I want to get into it because I got a few things I want to cover. The Bible teaches us through several verses I'm going to mention here. Oh, spiderweb. That sorry about that. That God has created us. It says all things were created by Him, and He also says that He created us with a purpose for Him in Colossians 1:16. Revelations 4:11 gives us a little bit more insight into that, and it says, "For thou hast created all things, and for thy pleasure they are and were created." That's very key and important. It's not that we were just created for Him to... Oh, turtle. I don't know if you can see that or not. It's kind of camouflage. Anyway, sorry. But we were created for His pleasure. God takes pleasure in seeing us fulfill the purpose for which He created us. And then we also see the story here, or a passage in James chapter 1. I'm not going to read through the whole thing here, but verses 12 through 25, if you want to look that up. But it talks about how every good thing, every good gift cometh from above. We must be doers of this word which He has given us. That is the greatest gift pretty much that we have in our possession from above. Now, of course, we can have the gift of salvation. We can have that gift of eternal life, but we learn about that through this word, through His word. Sorry. This is my journal productivity planner, not His word. But we also see in Matthew 25, verses 14 through 30, a parable of Jesus giving different people talents. Well, not Jesus, but a master giving different people talents. And going away, and He wanted them to invest those talents. And so we have a lot of things we can learn from that parable. He said, and if you're familiar with it already, I rehash real fast. He gives one of his servants 5 talents, one of his servants I think it's 2 talents, and one servant's 1 talent. And when he comes back, he says, "What have you done with the talents?" And again, I should probably clarify, talents are referring to money in this case. It was a form of currency in the Bible times. He says, "What have you done with what I gave you?" And the man who had 5 was able to invest and use it wisely, and he got a return and was able to give back 10 to the master. The man with 2 doubled his as well, and the man with 1 said, "I knew you were a man who," and I'm totally paraphrasing, "when you give things away, you expect them in return. You don't really take losses, and so I was afraid and I buried it, so I could guarantee that talent would be here when you got back." And he's like, "Well, you weren't supposed to do that. You were supposed to use my talent. You were supposed to use what I gave you." And so that's where we're going to go with this morning. And obviously the people who did well, who invested the talents, God rewarded them with even greater responsibilities. And the man who was negligent with the talent God gave him, he was punished. He was pretty much just kicked out and said, "You're fired," more or less. So real quick, world application pictures of what we're talking about here, and that's what we're going to get at. Sorry about the bumpiness. Think about a car loan. If you go to a financial institution and they say, "Here's $30,000 for this particular car that you brought to us that you want to buy," and they give you the check instead of the dealership. Well, now, hang on a second. We've got some opportunities here. The dealership already gave you the car, and they are giving you, or say you're buying it from an owner. Okay, so what happens if you don't use that money and pay the people you're supposed to pay? Obviously, problems are going to come down the pipe. Let's say, for example, your boss gives you $1,000 expense fund to set up and coordinate this business trip for the entire office, and you are just given this blank check or not blank check, $1,000 check, and said, here, go spend it wisely. Whoa, hang on a second, we've got some opportunities here, and we have some responsibilities here. Then we go on to giving, let's say any of you teenagers out there maybe listening to this, your parents give you the keys to your car, Victoria. Not happening yet. Parents give you the keys to the car, and they say, I want you to run to the store, and I want you to pick up your brother from school or from soccer practice, and be back here by 5 o'clock. You just got the keys. There's nobody in there with you. You can drive anywhere you want. And you go out and drive recklessly, or you go out and you make a few extra stops and you don't get the stuff from the store. Again, you have opportunities, but you also have immense responsibilities. And let's move on. One more thing, move this up a notch here, and this one hit home with me as I was thinking about this. Let's say your wife or your spouse gives you their heart at the marriage altar. What are you going to do with that? Are you going to neglect it, put it on the shelf, just not care? Are you going to, worse, crush it with selfishness and other pursuits? Or are you going to foster that and invest in that amazing gift that you've been given? So here's where I want to go with this real quick. I know we're into this a little ways already, but there's many real-world applications to this idea that God has given us the gifts that we have. 1 Corinthians 10:31, it tells us that we are to do all to the glory of God. And so if we are not doing all to the glory of God, first of all, we're disobeying, but we're missing out. We're not going to be able to fulfill and bring him the greatest pleasure for which we were created. So we need to be doing all to the glory of God. And here's where this kind of came home to me, was with time management. And I'm reading a few different books and different things over the years. But with time management, there's a lot of different things written on it. But one of the things it talked about is a task list. And there's different levels of competency or different levels of tasks that really need to get done, and you need to do them. So this isn't just for business. This could be for your home. If you're a domestic engineer, a housewife, if you are an entrepreneur, if you are the CEO of a company, there are tasks that you are incompetent. You just really, somebody else should be doing this task. For me, case in point, I could give you tons of examples probably for everybody, but for me, case in point, I could probably give you tons of examples for me. It was finances. I can do numbers, and I don't like them, but I can do them, but other people can do them a lot better. There's other things that I'm very incompetent, like repairing a bunch of stuff and different things. I can do some repairs, but then there's the things that you're competent at. You can do this. You can get it done. It might take you a little longer, but you can do it. And there's a lot of people that get stuck spending time, so much time, on these tasks that they really should delegate or hire somebody else to do. Then there's the tasks that you excel at. You are good. I mean, when you compare to the other comrades or to some other housewives that you're looking at on Facebook or whatever the case may be, you're like, man, I'm pretty good at this. But you really don't like it. It's something that you're good at, but you don't love. And then, sorry about the upside down chair over there. Then there are those unique abilities. Those things that you're not only good at, but you are passionate about, and you love to do those things. That is where you want to go. And I believe in our hearts, God has given us, and in our minds, God has created us with unique abilities. And that's what he's referring to here with, you have been given these 2 talents. Maybe some people it's 5 talents. Maybe some people it's just 1 talent. Whatever the case, none of that matters. It matters what you do with it. And that's where we need to try to figure out a way to stop spending so much time on these other tasks that are not what our unique ability is. I'm not saying we need to quit our job because we excel at it, but it's not our unique ability. That's not what I'm trying to get at. But we do need to try and figure out ways we can improve our time management. So the book I was reading suggested write down a list of all the different tasks that you do every day, personal, business, whatever. Then categorize them by incompetent, competent, excel, and unique. And those may just be like one or two things that is your unique ability, but that's something that you love to do. Or maybe it's not even something that you get to do every day and that you want to do. Maybe it's something you're not even sure what is your unique ability. Start with something that you are passionate about, that you love to do, and maybe you don't have opportunity to do, and start with that and just think about that. But when you make this list, then go through and categorize it and start immediately trying to knock out those things that you're incompetent and say, all right, I can delegate this, I can hire somebody for this, whatever the case may be. And say you don't have a ton of extra money, that's fine. Get the stuff done and move on to the things that need to get done, that you're really, really good at. And that is where we'll be able to reach our potential. We'll be able to maximize that time that God has given us with the abilities God has given us to bring Him greater pleasure, to do for Him bring Him greater glory. And that's where I wanted to really challenge. I know this is a longer video this morning. Challenge us as the Lord was challenging me. If you're going to reach your potential, which is the greatest thing you can do for the people that are around you, is to close that gap between where you are now and where your potential is. If you're going to reach that point, this is a key step. You've got to focus in on your unique abilities, stuff that you're good at, that you love to do, and invest in that talent God has given you for His glory and for those around you. Thank you, God bless, and I hope you have found this encouraging and challenging. If you have ideas on some other videos or some other topics that you would be interested in seeing or hearing about, feel free to leave them in the comments. If you thought this was of interest and valuable to you, feel free to share it. I'm going to be posting this on a Facebook page that I've created for, I really started it for my kids, but eventually we may end up doing something a little bit more with it. And God bless.